Welcome back to another sloppily edited video. On today's video, I will be showcasing a new project of mine called Photon Slides. As the title of the video suggests, we will be creating a slideshow. Yes, a slideshow. The things these two make. And by all means, Photon Slides, it's a web application created by me with really bad coding conventions and very poorly optimized code. Yeah, so it will not be the ultimate killer of those two powerhouses, which are maintained by these two mad lads. But I feel like Photon Slide acts like that gimmicky kitty trolley at a supermarket where 2-year-olds can use them and actually be somewhat useful. But why create my own slideshow creator when I can just boot up Google Slides for free or PowerPoint pirated? Well, I actually have a really good reason. Back when I was supposed to create a slideshow presentation for my high school French course, I decided that I was going to create a slideshow using my web development skills. This decision was made because of all the fancy animation techniques that could be employed using CSS, and as any normal self-tormenting computer science enthusiasts would, I started on the presentation. The presentation was on Luxembourg and it was supposed to be full of cool, flashy transitions, but because of my poor coding conventions, I had images flying in from random parts of the screen when it wasn't even supposed to be part of the presentation. So that's why I created Photon Slides. It's a platform that organizes all your files and CSS so you can create presentable presentations during your upcoming, I don't know, company conference. But honestly, you're probably gonna spend all your time working on the presentation and not what you're supposed to be doing. But if you have a decent understanding of vanilla HTML and CSS, that means no frameworks like React or Angular, and every other website building frameworks there are, including this one, then you should be pretty good at creating slides with Photon Slides. If you're not, that is a-okay because all your elements are going to be inserted via HTML, and their animations will be handled by CSS. So frameworks like Bootstrap that mostly deal with CSS is compatible. After all, Photon Slides is like the IDE but for slide creation. And because of that, Photon Slides also allows you to create hover effects and iframe embedding. So while you're doing your presentation, you can very well hover over elements and have them move or animate. So that could include, say, interactable Google Slides or even YouTube embeds. It really does allow for so much freedom that you have no clue where to start, but enough of boasting about a product you haven't seen yet, so why don't I show you guys a demo. Just a side note, if you have any issues with Photon Slides or anything I make, you can join my Discord server, the link is in the description. I just edited the first part of my video and I realized how dead I sound. Here I have Google Slides on my left and Photon Slides on my right, but jokes aside, deadness aside, this is how Photon Slide looks. So it looks awfully similar to Google Slides except no fancy drag and drops, no rulers, or like a toolbar here. But that's because most of the tools and ruler things aren't really dealt in CSS. So looking at Photon Slides, we have kind of like 3 editors. One's the actual CSS of the slide, the HTML of this entire presentation. So the HTML stays consistent throughout each slide. So if I created a div here, it will stay no matter which slide we're looking at. While the CSS is different. If I put a 1 here, 2 here, and a 3 here, you can see how it's different. Similarly, notes, you can write whatever you want, although I don't know why you would want to write notes. It's just a waste of space. I don't think anybody writes in speaker notes. But what I'm trying to demonstrate is that you can make much prettier looking slideshows in Photon Slides. Now the thing is, Photon Slides isn't best at creating long presentations. Like short form presentations, I think it does an amazing job. So if we were to look at our current slide demonstration, if we look at our slide demonstration, I feel like the best I can do for the animations is some sloppy transition like this one. Yeah. It looks bad in my opinion. It could be better. Now I've taken the time to create a duplicate in Photon Slides using the extension. I get to save it, as you can see here. You can import it. Take a look. The animation is much cleaner, right? The slide demonstration here rotates, slides into place. My username Mars drops down, it's gone. The list appears, and the elements fade in and slide in. And the CSS, I'd say, is relatively simple. Like if you know what you're doing, this is not that hard to make. Looking at the HTML, you get to visualize everything. You have your content section, you have your title, the subtitle, which is my username, the actual list that shows up later, and the list items. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of just redo this. So yeah, just a general walkthrough. We have some choices here. You can name this slide. I'm just going to keep it as unnamed. We have a examples directory, so you can check out example 1. This one's relatively simple. This was just for a test. And we also have the second one, which you guys have already seen, which is this. We also have frame setup. So if you want your background to be cyan, for example, since this is just CSS, you can set it to cyan. You can set the border, the size, but we're going to keep it standard. And we also have an autoplay feature. Either way, we have import. So if we go into the extension here, you can see this is what you would paste into there for the import. For export, you can either have the JSON, which is what you just saw earlier, or you can have an embed, which is the examples you saw. You can present it, goes full screen, and you can copy link. Now the thing is, this is hosted on GitHub, so copy link doesn't really work. The link is only like a snapshot of what's currently here. So if I were to actually go to this link, you would see everything. But if I were to edit something, like if I did an HTML edit text, you won't be able to see it here. So this is just for like instant sharing, current version sharing. Now, of course, we also have a bunch of features like rotating. You do Alt Shift and then the scrolly thingy. You can also zoom in and out, drag like you saw earlier. You can do Shift scroll to like scroll really quickly, or Alt scroll to like, scroll more precise. We also have different types of scalings using the drop down, or you can just scale to fit to return to normal. So let's just copy this. I'm just gonna do it right here, right now. I'm not gonna look back at the code. So usually when I do my presentations, I prefer to have a container. So usually ID and then content. This is just so that if I feel like it's getting too messy, I can just create multiple. So I can just call this slide 1 or view 1. And once I change views completely, I can just hide everything in here and go to the next one. But for now, it's just a simple one. So we can just call it content, simple slide. Now, all of your components should either have a class or an ID. Usually I prefer having an ID because I get to manipulate each element directly. So we have a title. Now the thing about Photon slides is that I can use percentages or view width and view height as like a reference point for how I want the size of my title to be or where it's put. So that way if I ever decide to change the width and height, it still looks relatively similar. So continuing, we can have like an H3, see it over there. So our title and subtitle can both be Arial. Let's just work on the first slide. What I usually do is HTML overflow, because sometimes your elements go off the screen. So any overflow is just hidden. This way you don't get that really ugly scrolly bar. Now what we can do is we want to center our slide demonstration. So this is literally just web dev skills. So we have display, flex, align, item center, and justify content center. Now we can just flex direction column. Maybe we can make the height the actual height of its container. Yep, so now everything is centered. Now we can move on and actually specify the size. I think it's a bit too small, so pretty sure font weight, yeah, it was bolded. We just do normal, and then font size 200 is way too big. 100, maybe 85. Not 185, 85. Looks good. You can also have subtitle, which can be gray. Maybe a font size of estimating 50? 50, yep. We can make it not bolded. Awesome. Makes margins aren't messing with how things are shown. Yep. We can just do a gap. If you want to do like quick presentations, use PowerPoint. PowerPoint has some better animations, transitions than Google Slides. So I think this looks quite nice. Same thing. On our next slide, we don't want these things to be here anymore, right? Slide demonstration, I want it elsewhere. My username should be gone. So what can we do? Well, we want to first assign transition values, 500 milliseconds. I want my title to rotate negative 90 degrees. Yep. The font weight, sorry, font size. We had 85 earlier, let's do 70, so it actually fits. 75? 75. And specify its location. Yeah, because we already rotated it, so the X is the new Y, so let's do negative 50 pixels and negative 300 pixels, 200. Ooh, 50 is perfect. A lot of trial and error. 75. That is not where that's supposed to go. You know, 70 works. Now we want our subtitle to disappear, so 500 pixels should be off. Yep. And we can just navigate between the two and see how it looks. Yeah. Okay, so now we want the list. So what we can do is, so we have our list, and we also have a unordered list, a bunch of list items. List item. So you might have noticed I don't have any of the cool autofill or indentation. Just doing the code highlighting took me so long. And if you guys have any plugins or Chrome extensions that mess with how code blocks display, you gotta disable those. Let's find these IDs. I'm gonna call this one list, actual list. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna give list and actual list position of like absolute. This way we can manipulate where they are exactly. Oh yeah, I was doing the @ symbol and I thought of keyframes. And keyframes work with this perfectly. Actually, I want the list to rotate in or like appear like it was in the already done version. Once again, font family, Arial. So yeah, comments work as well. We have, it's not Y, probably X then. Yep, it's X. And down in here, our CSS for our title. Transform. No, we don't want any. Oh, not title. List. My bad. Yep. Now, right, we have to position it as well. So, yeah, not bad. Actual list. We want it right below. So let's do maybe a smaller font with just 40. All of our list items, let's make their line height 60 pixels. Give them some space, give some breathing room. Looks about right. And I'm just gonna add this. So every time our list item is hovered over, so it's not gonna work in the editor right now, but when we present it, like here, you can see we can make them move. Let's give it a transition. So now present, yeah, it looks a lot better. Now we can like this. What I want is for the actual list to have an opacity of, I can't type, of 0, so it's not visible. But here our list appears and our actual list can have an opacity of 1, but I also want it to transform, translate x -5 pixels. you can actually see it like appear. Oh, did I not? Yeah, I need to set a transition. Sure, milliseconds. Just experimenting. Oh, looks good. We can do maybe more, maybe 20, so you can actually see it move. Then move the entire thing over by, make it 40. Too much. Then 35 it is. Yep, so you can see it actually translate. Let's make it 50. You can actually see it move in. And I don't want the list and the slide demonstration text to overlap. So what we can do is, look at that. Now I'm gonna give it some time, some less time. Yeah, it appears right after, and I want the list to actually show up before the actual list. So let's also give it a 250 millisecond delay. Look at that. You just created much better animations, except you spent way longer. You can present this. Oops, so here is a really poorly shown OBS configuration, but we have these two buttons here that you can go back and forth. And we're on slide demonstration, next slide, spacebar, list, ABC, and if I want to hover over one of them, we can do that. Here, let me show you guys keyframes. So I add a keyframe's called, say, shake. I want the list to shake. So I have a %, 0%. I want it to say transform, translate x, just 0. We start off 0. And I want it to move, let's say, left, and then back. 50%, 100%. We're gonna move it over 50 pixels. Now I find title and just do animation rename with the shape, the 1 second per cycle, and infinite. Now we have it shaking. We can make it faster. Let's make it 500 milliseconds. So we have a moist critical video here. We're gonna embed it. I'm gonna copy the embed, and there we have it. The video, interactable. You can see the potentials. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe or join my Discord server. The link is in the descriptions. Well, back to my basement where I figure out what to do with my life.